Here we are at DesignCon. With today is Michael Yang. Welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you very much. Great to be here.
So you live in the world of semiconductors.
Yes, unfortunately for too long.
So tell me, what's the state of the market right now?
It is great. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of optimism. The reason that has brought the subject of semiconductor up to the forefront is really the demand for electronics, demand for semiconductors, and the lack thereof. We sort of run into the shortage of semiconductors. So really recently that has been the hot topics of discussion within the semiconductor industry.
Is it shortage because of the pandemic or something else?
There are actually several reasons for the shortage. Pandemic just one of the things. Obviously COVID brought an entire different buyer behavior, consumer behavior. You buy more TVs and televisions and so on. You spent less money on traveling and other things. So what that does is give you an increased amount of demand for electronics. But also the semiconductor shortage stemmed from political policies that was put in place, US versus China and so on, that really shifted some of the demand towards other products, and that caused a certain short of supply. Other reasons for the shortage is also some of the products such as power semiconductors and display driver ICs traditionally produced on 8-inch capacities. Unfortunately, 8-inch capacities has actually been pretty short, relatively short, for the last few years. And now this increased demand has just pushed that over the edge, so to speak. So there are quite a few different reasons, and the way to resolve it really is you got to address each one of those reasons to overcome the shortage.
So how does that happen? How does the market stabilize, or does it?
Well, two ways really. You'll return to more stabilized supply-demand situation. One is obviously you wait for the demand to normalize, right? COVID-driven demand doesn't last forever. Demands for TVs, demands for PC eventually will subside and normalize. But the other is also to spend the necessary capex to build additional capacity to support the demand, increased demand that we see today. The one specific example is electric vehicles. That demand is not subsiding, right? We have turned the hockey stick on electric vehicles. Penetration will continue to increase, and therefore the demand for products such as displays, power semiconductors will continue to increase. So you have to spend money to build the capacity to support that type of demand.
So does that involve a gamble of sorts for some industries in terms of where they place their bets for investments?
Yeah, this is where everybody tried to be, gain intelligence, have a better understanding of, how demand gets stronger, how demand gets built over years, and you spend accordingly. You don't build capacity overnight, and you just got to build them out over time. And you got to make sure you have the products to support it. You got to make sure the entire industry is in a position to support the overall demand.
So with the pandemic and the change of behavior, all of a sudden, as you mentioned, consumer electronics going up, does the industry basically just shift gears for different kinds of markets, and now it has to shift back over time?
Yeah, simply put, yes, very much so, right? So if you wind the clock backwards to early last year, when the lockdown first started, PCs were in shortage because all of a sudden companies need to buy PCs for the employees to work from home. So all of a sudden demand went up, skyrocketed, and the manufacturers have to place the necessary orders for the components. And the component manufacturer has to go produce those additional components. And the fabs, semiconductor fabs, basically moved their allocation from other buckets, segments.
Like automotive?
To support this demand, right? So, and when the automotive demand eventually came back up, unfortunately they got a ticket says you're in back of the line, right? Wait until we call you. So, yeah, so that's basically what caused that particular shortage is, using COVID driven demand as an example. So yeah.
So right now, which beast gets fed first? Because we've got automotive is, I mean, they're not doing well based on a lot of people we've talked to here. And the price of cars is not going down.
Yeah.
Electronic, where's the focus?
Well, the focus is obviously these long, sustained demand segments, like electric vehicles. Companies are not, every company is smart. They have smart people looking at the trends, looking at the behavior patterns, and they anticipate shifts in demand changes. So obviously everybody's working towards shifting their manufacturing allocation towards these longer term demand segments to making sure they optimize their business towards that.
So if the market is that savvy, which they obviously are, and they all move in that direction, is there then going to be a glut on that space?
Absolutely, there's certain risk to that, and especially, it has been a hot topic, and not only a hot topic due to supply shortage, also a hot topic due to regionally desire to be self-reliant, right? Meaning China want to become more self-reliant, dependent on their own semiconductor supply and demand. So does Germany, so does Taiwan, so does US. And so everybody has this desire to making sure they have sufficient supply for their demand. The risk here is obviously when the industry don't cooperate as a whole, you have isolated supply around the world, so they don't operate as efficiently as a global economy or global supply chain would, and therefore that would introduce potential risk for oversupply and potential glut.
That sounds like going backwards, though, all these isolation pockets of development, if you will, as opposed to global supply chain.
Yeah, this is what happens. Unfortunately, there's other forces at play, not just trying to build a most efficient global supply chain. Right? The government have their own desires and wants and needs, so they want to make sure their products and overall economy is not being stagnant or bottlenecked by other regions, right? So no, it's not going to be the most efficient, but you're probably not going to run into supply shortage maybe as much in the future. So
right, good stuff.
Yeah.